a Canadian radio sanctuary podcast. In the Memories book, Volume 1, you wrote an excellent story on the annual event. Starting on page 242, there's mention of the first fall fair was in 1901, but the Corn Festival began in 1949. So when did the two events sort of merge? Was it when the Corn Festival joined in 49?
No, the Corn Festival was a separate event, and
Mm-hmm.
it was initiated by the Agassiz-Harrison Board of Trade, because that was and it was based on sweet corn, actually, because that was the chief crop for the area, and they wanted to popularize the local industries. And then it changed because, of course, then forage corn became the more commonly grown corn, and so it was changed to forage corn. And then, I'm trying to remember the year, because then the association, that's the Board of Trade, then asked the Agricultural Association to take on the Corn Festival, but to keep the name in the title. So that's why it's the Fall Fair and Corn Festival. As I do get questions of people saying, how come there's two different years in there? And I said, that's because they were two separate events. And like I said, the Corn Festival people specifically asked that the name remain in the title. So it wasn't just the Agassiz Fall Fair, and we also held a corn contest, but that's actually two names in the title.
1901 for the first fall fair. There's some great photos in the Memories book from way back when and over the decades. What were things like then in the very first one? And I guess it was pretty small, was it not?
Yeah, it was small. I think there was 2 horses shown. So it was very small, and the reeve at the time, James Morrow, and of course Morrow is a common name around here, he was a strong supporter of the Agricultural Association, because the association had actually started up in 1899. The Morrow horses were actually the only ones shown at the first fair, and the horse judging ring was on Pioneer Street. But then in 1912, there were 7 acres of land that were purchased for the Agassiz Fall Fair. And this is now part of the present fairgrounds. But I was told because of tax and some other legal issues, they turned the land over to the District of Kent shortly after that. But there is an agreement, and I know in 1913, November 7th, 1913, there's a record of a resolution giving the association the right to enter upon and make use of the grounds free of charge. And we still haven't been charged anything for using the grounds after all these years. But we did turn over that first original 7 acres over to the district, and then they added on to it. And there was an agricultural hall where the present agricultural hall is. There was an older building, and then it was torn down in the early 1980s, that the old ag hall was torn down. And then the present hall was built in 2 phases. So part of it was completed in 1983, and then it was finalized in 1987. And the pavilion, what we call the pavilion now, was a horse barn, a horse and cattle barn. And then what happened, there was a plebiscite in the 1970s, because there was a group of people that wanted a hockey arena built on the fairgrounds, and that was turned down. So then they came to the Ag Association and said, well, could we upgrade the barn to make it a year-round building? And so then floor hockey has been held for many, many years in the pavilion, because they put a cement floor in, and permanent walls were put in, and washrooms. And so that is also owned. So the agricultural hall, the pavilion, the picnic shelter, and there's a small stage there, those are all owned by the Agricultural Association. So we're responsible for their maintenance and upkeep. But the fitness center, what I call the fitness center, the leisure services building, that was built by the district.
And of course, the livestock pavilion is also used for bingo.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I've never played bingo, but I usually do the payout for bingo.
Okay.